Today we're going to be going over the Ritualist in World vs. World, seeing what the changes were, and providing a build for roaming. First off, we'll be taking a look at the patch notes. If you're just interested in the build, you can skip past. I do have timestamps available. Also, if you want to read the patch notes in full, I'll be putting the link in the description below. For the first change, rupture skills no longer exist. Instead, they were replaced by enervation skills, which no longer destroy their respective spirits. This is incredible because before we had to worry about using a rupture skills in Shroud, because if we did, we'd have to lose out on the auto attack damage from these spirits, which mainly left us to have our rupture skills automatically cast after we left Shroud unless we needed stability from a preservation spirit. Also, that auto cast now actually doesn't work at all because of this change. Now we actually have to use it for its benefits. Next up, we have an Anguish skill being reworked. In PvE, its cooldown is reduced, but in World vs. World, only the location of where the spirit is summoned at is changed. Instead of spawning to our side, it spawns in front of us. This is good and bad at the same time. When we're chasing or facing our target, we're actually going to be able to have that slight range increase from when it was at our side. When we're running away though, it's still going to be spawning in front of us, making it have less range than it would at our side. Overall, it's not really that much of a range change though, so it's fine. The next change was to Painful Bond. This makes our effect pulse more damage and have it scale with our power, which basically is just a damage increase. If you didn't know what this skill is, it's the debuff that you inflict when using your Anguish Spirit on a target. It causes your summons to do more damage. There's also a change to Wanderlust, which is mainly PvE focused, reducing cooldowns and increasing damage. The part that did change in World vs. World though is that it no longer inflicts daze, which really isn't that bad considering the same skill also inflicts 2 seconds of knockdown. Preservation seems to be nerfed in structured PvP to do less healing. Aha, a change to summon spirits. This was actually one of the bigger changes that was made and will be affecting every Ritualist build. Summon spirits is the Shroud 5, which was before just a teleport. Now every active spirit that's not doing their initial attack attacks in different ways. Anguish will fire a flurry of projectiles. Wanderlust fires a big projectile that dazes enemies around the target, which also gets that daze that was removed from Shroud 3 back. And this is actually better because then it's not stacking with another CC on the same skill. Preservation also creates a barrier that destroys enemy projectiles. This is a similar bubble to the Siege Turret's bubble and Untame's Pet Unleash bubble, or Revenant's Tablet bubble, along with a few others. Zinray's weapon, or Xinray, or Zine? Unsure, but this makes the effect of the skill only trigger when the incoming strike exceeds 15% of the target's maximum health. Before, this was only at 5%, so it'll make using up those charges more difficult, but at the same time, this means you're going to be getting more healing overall, because those charges aren't being used up on lower damage hits. Most of the time though, I just use the skill for its stun break. The Boon of Creation trait also gets a change. This gives us concentration increase. Now if you look at this by itself, it's not great. All it provides is 60 concentration. However, this is one of the non-selectable traits that actually comes with Ritualist, which means this is a free buff to our boon uptime when we're using Ritualist. Plus, the effect with this wasn't replaced because of it. Ruptured Souls is now gone and has been replaced with Charged Souls, which is unbelievably better, especially for built-in traits. What this does now is grant us life force whenever we use our enervation skills. For context, Ruptured Souls was basically an info trait saying you had rupture spirit skills and they would automatically be ruptured upon your spirits expiring. This trait though is just incredible. Every time we innervate, we get 7% more life force, which we have 3 of, so basically we're getting a free 21% life force just by entering Shroud and using our skills. 21% life force is about 4,000 life force, by the way. On top of this, we're even able to choose Soul Twisting, which makes our first spirit skill instantly recharge. We're then getting another 7% life force. This contributes so much to its tankiness and definitely helps Ritualist become one of the tankiest Necro Elite specializations. Spirit's Gift. This is the first column second row trait. Its Condi removal is now gone and leaves this trait with just the healing when summoning creatures. Yeah, that nerfed its trait a lot. This was basically a trait for supports with its healing and Condi cleanse, but now it only provides a healing increase. With full minstrels, we're getting about 700 healing per summon, which our shroud can provide 3, and we only get more if we use minions, but I feel like our weapon spells are going to be taking priority over this. This makes it so we're only getting about 2100 healing every time we enter shroud and use our summons. I'd say it's fine, it's just a trait. You're going to be getting healing from other sources as a support anyways. Explosive growth. This is my favorite change about all of these. This makes our first column, third row trait, now grant a damage increase whenever we summon a creature. In World vs. World, it's a 7% damage increase. Plus, this buff is stackable up to 20 seconds, which means if we summon all our 4 spirits in Shroud with Soul Twisting, we're basically getting a permanent 7% damage buff. This makes bursts even better, and is by far the best trait of this column now, unless of course you're going supports. Plus, this damage buff was added to the trait that already existed, which did damage around creatures you summon. So basically, you're getting 2 damage bonuses for 1. It's just so incredible now. Wielder's Remedy is also gone. Instead, it was merged with Wielder's Boon and replaced with Spirit's Remedy. Wielder's Remedy originally cleansed 2 condies from us and 1 from our allies. Being replaced by Spirit's Remedy basically made this a pure support trait, and you cannot use this for good self-condi cleanse. Because of Wielder's Remedy though being merged with Wielder's Boon, it now has Condi Cleanse on that trait, and we still have that Condi Cleanse from the trait that replaced Wielder's Remedy, which means we're back to having 2 traits with Condi Cleanse, perfect for supports. Next up, we have changes to Spirit Strength. Not only does this provide its healing and damage increase to its spirit, but also to minions now. This further makes Minion Mancer Ritualist possible, so you'll definitely be seeing that from me in the future. Now for the next big change. Lingering Spirits now gives us bonuses for active spirits. They no longer get an attack speed increase though. Anguish gives a 10% extra damage increase, Wanderlust gives us 33% more movement speed, and Preservation gives us 15% increased healing. I can see this becoming better in PvE, but in World vs. World, I feel like Soul Twisting is still going to be a lot better because it can get burst off quicker and you don't have to worry about your Shroud's life force draining. However, this could still be used as a more passive playstyle, offering those nice passive boosts with your spirits. That's it for the patch notes, so what do I think about this? Well, like previously mentioned in my thoughts of this in the beta, I thought it was really solid. But this just got buffs, and not like a small amount. Everything was basically a buff, which is just incredible if you're the one playing this. Its bursts are crazy, it has sustain that's unbelievable, it still has incredible mobility, and has the options of being a support or providing damage. Its only counters at the moment feels like reflex or projectile blocks to stop your main burst and Shroud and your auto attacks in Shroud. What are your thoughts of these changes? Let us know in the comments below. Now for the build. This build is going to be pretty tanky and focuses on life force generation as well as buffing our Shroud so we can do huge bursts with our Shroud 2, 3, and 2, and 5000 plus auto attacks paired with some quickness. This build is going to be built for roaming. For equipment, we have Marauders paired with Berserker stats. Our Rune is going to be the Rune of the Eagle, and our Sigils are our Sigils of Force and Impact. Our Relic is the Relic of Fireworks for increased damage. However, you are able to go with the Relic of Speed if you want some more mobility. Our weapons are going to be Sword, and Greatsword, which provide really good movement and range damage with swords, and a pull on Greatsword 5, with some other good damaging skills. Our first specialization is going to be Death Magic. The first trait is going to be the Shrouded Removal. This is our main trait to help counter Condi. It Condi cleanses every 3 seconds when we're in our Shroud. Our next trait is going to be Deadly Strength. This increases our damage even more with stacks of Carapace. I would love it if Necromantic Corruption also affected spirits, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't, as it does say minions and not creatures. Next up, we have Corruptor's Fervor. Even though we're not a Condi build, low damaging Condis still get through, which grants us Carapace, which is where our main generation of this is going to be at. This specialization was chosen to help us become more tanky. We've got more life force generation, toughness increase, and power increase from Death's Carapace, as well as less Condi damage taken, and some Condi cleanse. Our next specialization is going to be Soul Reaping. First off, we have Unyielding Blast. Whenever we hit with our Shroud 1, it inflicts vulnerability. Paired with the minor quickness we get later on, we can stack these vulnerability debuffs quickly. This can be changed though. If you are constantly getting immobilized, you can always take the Speed of Shadows, which cleanses Immobilize, Chill, and Cripple when entering Shroud. Our next trait is going to be Soul Barbs. This increases our damage output when entering Shroud or exiting Shroud. Since we tend to use our bursts right when we enter Shroud, this is really great. Our last trait for this specialization is going to be Death Perception. This increases both our crit chance and crit damage. We mainly chose the specializations for the buffs to Shroud it provides, but the bonus damage and crit is always nice. Of course, we also have Ritualist itself. Before these changes, I would have picked Wandering Spirits, but now Explosive Growth is just way too good to pass up. If you still need to get your spirits over to where you are, you can use your Shroud 5 to teleport every spirit to that spot. It works similarly to the Mechanist's Teleport Signet. What Explosive Growth provides us is not only a damaging area when summoning our creatures, but also now a 7% damage increase. This is incredible because you can have it on constantly. Next is Empowering Spirits. This is where we can get quickness from, as well as some other nice boons on the side. Whenever we summon our spirits, we get a quickness buff, but depending on the type of spirit, we also get other boons. Our last trait is going to be Soul Twisting. This is incredible because it allows us to use our first used skills in Shroud to refresh completely. This means we can use this for our main burst, which is 232, or we can heal more using R4 twice. For our skills, we have Resilient Weapon, which is a good heal, providing damage reduction as well as healing over time to both you and your allies. In roaming situations with your friends, this is incredible to help keep your teammates alive longer. Spectral Walk is going to be our main mobility, providing us with swiftness along with a stun break and a Condi Cleanse. Plus you also get Life Force per Condi Cleanse, which adds to our Life Force production. For more Life Force, we also have Spectral Armor. This can be used as a stun break and also provides us protection, but the main reason we picked this is because it gives us 8% life force gain every time we take damage while this is active. This skill can also work while we're in Shroud. For our last utility skill, we also have the Nightmare Weapon, which provides us with some sustain through lifesteal, but also inflicts vulnerability up to 10 stacks. This also can be given to allies, so it's great for stacking vulnerability. You're also able to replace Nightmare Weapon with Fleshworm. Fleshworm provides you with more mobility, allowing you to teleport to it after it spawned. Also, when teleporting to it, you do get Life Force, which contributes even more to your Life Force production. Another good thing is this is a minion, so it does count as a creature to your traits like Explosive Growth. This skill lets you control situations even more than you already can. Our elite is going to be Zinre's Weapon, which provides us some healing when we get hit above 15% of our maximum health, and this is also a stun break. Now it's time for the commentary to show how well this build works. To start off this commentary, we do have a fight against a wonderful Troubadour. I try to land my Greatsword 5 to CC, but I miss. Starting to have my health drop and get CC'd, I Spectral Walk back and use my Elite Stun Break. I head into my Shroud and use my 232 burst, which ends up doing enough damage to catch him off guard and end up downing him. This fight was a 1v3 that I chose to fight. I head in and use my Greatsword 5, pulling 2 of them and getting a really good Greatsword 3. I pull back with my Spectral Walk and use my heal and elite to try to survive. I head in with my Shroud trying to burst down the core Necro, but he lives due to his trait that auto uses his Shroud upon a lethal blow. I teleport off using my Shroud 5 and start to wrap around the building. The Hallsmith decides to fall and I can finish him off just by auto attacking him in Shroud. Surprisingly, none of his teammates actually came with him and I can just continue to finish him off. Our next victim comes around the corner and decides they can take me on their own. I mount up to try to get some out of combat regeneration and then head in, landing my sword 4 and 5 skills for some decent damage, and going into Shroud for that last 232 burst to down him. Not done yet though, because the core Necro decided to help, so I teleport off and start auto attacking in Shroud. I accidentally leave, which was almost a fatal mistake. I try to make some distance with my sword leaps, and Spectral Walk, which I use once the core Necro chases me a little bit further. My Shroud's cooldown's almost off, so I use my Greatsword 5-4-3 combo to do good damage, and head into my Shroud for the final 232 bursts, and auto attacks to down him. I then head over to finish off the Deadeye, and then can focus the core Necro to finish him off. That fight could have gone a lot worse if they had only stuck together, but still being able to have so much life force production even while on Shroud helped a lot there. This fight was against another Ritualist in a 1v1. I use my Nightmare Weapon and start to use my sword skills at range, getting him under 50 50%. I then head into my shroud and use my normal 2-3-2 combo, along with the innervate skills, getting his shroud absolutely demolished. I use my shroud 5 for the new spirit attacks that go with it and end up downing him. Even with his shroud being completely full, my 2-3-2 burst still melted it entirely. This was one of the longer fights I had. This time it's a 1v1 against the Berserker the entire time. I start out by landing my Greatsword 5-4-3 combo, then getting stunned, I stun break out with my spectral armor. I enter my shroud and use my normal 2-3-2 combo, but it ends up getting countered by his well-timed heal. I teleport off because I do need some distance for cooldowns. I use all my innervate skills to top off my shroud and begin to head in again with my sword leaps, trying to land any ranged damage I can while still trying to let my shroud's cooldown finish along with a few other cooldowns. He heads in and stuns me and I stun break out of it with my elites. I then use my nightmare weapon paired with my Greatsword 3 for really good damage. I then head back into my shroud and use my 2-3-2 combo again, this time not failing me and I'm able to finish him off. My elite stun break probably saved me during that fight, if he had a combo planned after that stun. This fight was right after the one with the Berserker. I used my nightmare weapon with my Greatsword 5 and 3, getting 6,000 damage. He rolls away and I start trying to do range damage with my swords. He goes invisible and swaps his longbow, which he starts doing a really good job of keeping me away. However, I still head in using my sword leaps and entering my shroud to land my 2-3-2 burst, which is enough to finish him off. This does have good movement to help deal with ranged specializations. This fight was against a really good conduit. I head right in with my shroud trying to land that 2-3-2 burst, which ends up not dealing too much damage. I get stunned so I teleport out using my shroud 5. I go out of my shroud and try to stay at range from him, dealing small bits of damage when possible. I land a fierce CC and it gives my shroud time to go off cooldown. He heads in and I go back into my shroud. I use my normal combo but he ends up evading it all. I continue to use my innervate skills and auto attack trying to deal as much damage as possible. This guy is really good at dodging all of my skills, and look at all of the boons Conduit gets. I do end up landing a decent shroud too though. I teleport off with no more shroud remaining. I use my heal and nightmare weapon trying to survive and deal that last little bit of damage I need. I really should have stayed in my sword here. I go back into my shroud and use my shroud skills and innervate skills as soon as possible for that life force, bursting him down very low. A berserker came in and definitely put me in a worse position, but that's roaming for you. I was already struggling enough with just the conduits. I am still able to down the conduit though, so I'd say that's a victory. I head in on this Harbinger by dismounting him, and then using my Greatsword 5-4-3 combo. I also use my nightmare weapon along with minor damaging skills from my greatsword and sword. I then head into my shroud using my normal 2-3-2 combo, but getting stunned pretty badly in between. Still doing okay damage though, and being able to use my innervate skill for life force generation. I start to just auto attack, hoping I can get enough damage to down him, and using my shroud skills off cooldown. I teleport using my shroud 5 and my spirit's attack. I continue to auto attack because it just feels like my shroud never runs out on Ritualist. I down him and I can finish him off with a fancy finisher. It's crazy how much life force generation you actually have in your shroud as a Ritualist. You can actually stay in it for quite a while because of it. I come across my teammate in a 1v2 taking a tier 3 camp, so I decide I should come help out. First off, I target the Tempest, pulling him with my Greatsword 5 and dealing good damage with my 3, continuing to pressure with my Nightmare weapon and Shroud 2-3-2 combo. I finally get him down. The Virtuoso ended up coming in on me, so I ended up using my Shroud auto attacks on him, doing actually pretty decent damage. He teleports off and I leave him for my teammate to deal with as I finish off the Tempest. The burst of the spec is just so nice, and the damage consistency of your Shroud's auto attack is fun. This fight was a 1v3 and I really had no choice in leaving. I really just tried to survive, dealing damage when possible. My Greatsword 2 ended up dealing really good damage. I run around this tree to block attacks, ending up actually landing it and bursting down the catalyst right off the bat. I teleport off, trying to avoid the pressure the Tempest puts on me, getting life force when I can by using my innervate skills. I'm pretty focused on getting this catalyst down, also dodging the Reaper Shroud attacks, trying to survive. I wrap around this tree to put something in between me and the Reaper. I finally get the catalyst finished and exit Shroud, using my nightmare weapon and healing to try to survive. I land my Greatsword 2, dealing okay damage, and my spectral armor for life force generation. I think I'm going to die here, so I end up just spamming that Shroud button, hoping I can get in. I get in and use my 2 twice along with healing on my 4. I burst down the Tempest and the Reaper's all that's left. I start to auto attack, dealing 5,000 damage per hit, and he does end up going down. I am very surprised I actually survived through that, but if you can get into your Shroud, you're going to be almost unstoppable just because of all that life force gain that you get while you're in Shroud. I am very surprised that Ritualist got buffs in World vs. World. I do really enjoy this elite specialization though. It fits my playstyle perfectly, having insane survivability, good bursts, good mobility, and the ability to be ranged. If you have any questions or enjoy this build, let me know in the comments below. Consider giving this video a thumbs up, and if you're interested in more content like this, consider subscribing. I will be posting a similar video to this for both Amalgam and Gale Shot in the future. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in one of these, and have a great day.